Welcome to the Institute's Leading Edge, a show dedicated to helping the automotive aftermarket service industry. Covering topics suggested by you, the listener, we dive into what's important, getting you what you need to succeed. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Institute's Leading Edge, episode 78, The Future of Auto Service and Repair. Today on our panel, we've got Cecil Bullard, Tony Zanders, and John Waffler. These two fine gentlemen are the facilitators for our group program for the Bottom Line Impact Groups on the RLO side. And they work with dozens of shops every month. So we brought them on to kind of talk about this topic. And my dad as well works with hundreds of clients as well. So we figure we got a good group here to discuss this topic. Those of you who are watching or listening, if you enjoy the content, if you learn something or you want to share this, please give us a like and share and comment down below if you have any questions to let us know so that we can answer you while this is going on. Without further ado, I kind of want to kick it over to you, Dad, and get us started on this discussion.
So I'd like to start with every once in a while, I get a client that asks me the question, is there a future in this business with, I think, with electric cars and Uber and, we're going to have self-driving cars at some point and potentially those will be owned by Google or Yahoo or, whoever has the most money. And is there a future in this business?
So I've been a shop owner for most of my career, and now I work with other shop owners. And I think that it's important to realize that the technology and the way that we interact with vehicles is going to change. There's no question about it. There are changes afoot. There are required technology advances that manufacturers have to make in order to meet regulations, federal regulations. So there will be a change. What does that change mean to the market? What does that change mean to a shop owner? That's an entirely different question. And I think there is a future as long as we're able to or willing to adapt to the necessary, transition to the necessary technology changes, be responsive to what's different in the market. If we're relying on rebuilding carburetors, that ship has sailed. Right? There aren't carburetors anymore unless you're working on classic cars or lawnmowers. If we're relying on internal combustion engines only, there's a potential threat to your market at some point in the future. Is it going to be tomorrow? Is it going to be next year? No, it's not, but it will come.
It's kind of interesting. I think Biden just announced they're moving the deadline back to get rid of gas vehicles, internal combustion oil, carbon, and to 2030, which puts it, 8.5 years in the future, as opposed to, I think it was 2034 or 2035 before. John, what's your take on all of that? Is there a future here? 10 years from now, are we still going to have shops and be able to make a living?
That's the key, is define future. The short term, my term, your term, probably not going to see much impact. Kent, if he sticks around long enough, he'll probably see some impact happening down the road. I always think about, you can speculate all you want about future and what electrification is going to do, what the autonomous vehicles are going to do. But the reality is most shop owners need to look after today, which looks after tomorrow, and which looks after next week. And to try to get too far ahead of the curve, I remember, I think it was how to win friends and influence people, or stop worrying and start living, where if you try to see all of the stop signs along the whole journey, you end up not starting on the journey, or just giving up before you get started. So I prefer to think, let's look at what we can do today. Let's deal with the changes that are coming as they come up, and they are going to come up slowly. Everything does. Tony, you started working on carburetors, but gee, that might have been 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
36 years ago.
A lot's happened in that time. And yeah, there's still carburetors around. There's still, the ignition systems, the fuel delivery systems, they all change, they modify, everything's changed, but we've adapted to it. And I think that's going to be the same way that we'll adapt. There'll still be mechanical components of vehicles. The control systems may change, but I believe the wheels will still go around. The vehicles will still need to be stopped or started and stopped, and cooling systems and whatever it is, but it'll change. But I think some people get too excited about that and start trying to plan for that, when the reality is, look after today and tomorrow will look after itself as we get there.
Do you think, though, I mean, as an industry, every once in a while somebody says something, they go, yeah, that's from our hunter and gatherer past. We do this as a human beings, or our immune system is built this way because that's from thousands of years ago when we were being chased by, lions, tigers, and bears. And do you think that in the automotive industry, because we are troubleshooters, we look for trouble in the cars, and we've been trained that way for 36 years, 40 years, that we have a tendency as owners to look for, where's the trouble? I know trouble's around the corner. I know the axe is going to fall. Do you think, knowing as many shop owners as you do, John, or you, Tony, or even Kent, do you think that the owners are really, a lot of them are just, they feel like if everything's good today, when is it going to hurt? Right. Do you think that's true of the industry as a kind of, not everybody, obviously you can't do that, but as a large percentage? Anybody have a take on that? Tony's laughing.
Some of the shop owners that I talk to, and there's people out there that have this doomsday outlook on the industry and how radically it's going to change and how fundamentally it's going to, our segment of the industry is going to disappear in a relatively short period of time. And there's people that buy into those theories and get excited about them, but how do you react today? What do you prepare for? How can you prepare for that until it actually happens? I think as you see it happening in your market, in your little segment of the world, you're certainly going to have to adapt and adjust to it. But, I don't think that we're big enough at the scale that we're at to look down the road and start investing in research and development and invest in training and equipment and stuff when we really, again, we just come back to making today work and profitable. There's a lot bigger threats that are going to have to be dealt with long before we get to that point that are relevant and need to be addressed now, and planned for now. And you can do a lot of things. The technician shortage is a key example that's going to be the bigger threat than what happens,
20 years from now,
20 or 30 years down the road. Yeah.
But so I remember in the 90s, late 90s, they were saying that by, I don't know, 2010 or something, that we were going to have 8% of the market would be electric vehicles. And by that time, I think it was less than 1% was actually electric vehicles, because it just didn't take as well as, the people that thought it would. And I think it's starting to take on more and more, especially as the government gets behind it and pushes it. But so I'm going to go somewhere where I hadn't planned to go yet, because that's the perfect thing. There are things that are happening today that are issues for the industry that I need to be concerned about, and that I need to be preparing for, training for, learning, and adjusting. And I'm going to look at my list. We have a chip shortage currently. So new cars, as of today, there's not many new cars on the lot, and most manufacturers are struggling to get new cars on the lot. The price of used cars has gone up 40% as of yesterday, from at least one news article that I happened to pick up.
Thank goodness I bought my car last week.
we have supply chain issues, so there is some shortage of components, tools, equipment, etc. We have COVID going on, and we have some kind of a resurgence in that with the Delta variant. We have rising inflation. We have a technician shortage, which John, you mentioned. I believe that the industry currently is undervaluing itself. We have Google and Facebook AI, which is coming on, and they're controlling at least some information. And it's also creating some opportunities in our marketing. And then there's probably 6 or 7 other things that are actually happening today that can affect my business. So what do I need to do today? Like, what's the most important concept that you might teach today that will help me today? Now, I'm going to start with Tony. Kent, I'm going to come to you, so have an answer.
Be ready.
Tony, yeah.
So I think all of those ingredients, they remind me of the, painful growth we had to experience as a business owner back in the, referred to the Great Recession, 07, 08, 09, that whole season of growth and decline. And one of the key things that we learned as a business owner at that time was we had to actually run the business and make it profitable, manage our expenses, and respond to today, not respond to or conduct business like we did yesterday, because any given day things may change. And we had to learn how to be very diligent about our budgets, diligent about our profit margins, diligent about making sure we are financially stable and have reserves, so that, and this is the key thing, I think, so that when things impact us, when we're impacted by I believe gas prices are going to significantly go up, and that's going to impact miles driven, which has a direct correlation to how many visits to the shop bays people are going to have. If they don't drive their car, they're not going to bring it in for service. So there's a lot of variables in our markets, all the things you mentioned. If we are financially and business-wise prepared to adapt, that gives us a much better position, much better stability, so that when things change or as they change, we can maneuver. And we had to learn how to be on top of our budgets, on top of our profit margins, on top of everything that it took to make sure the business was viable, so that as things change, so that as we saw a decline in bay visits, we were able to adjust what we had to adjust, whether that meant adjust our prices, adjust our marketing efforts to increase traffic. Sometimes we had to adjust personnel up or down, depending on the market conditions. But if we did not remain diligent in our business operation, those changes, sometimes they feel like abrupt changes, which sometimes they are, but oftentimes you can see it down the road, way down the road. If you're just looking, we are going to see changes in our market, inflation, miles driven, the vehicles, everything is going to be in a state of flux. Are we, as business owners, as shop owners, are we ready for the changes that may come?
There's so many shop owners who were technicians who are great technicians, but not necessarily great business people. And I think that's true of every industry. You get the doers, and then they move up and they have opportunity to become owners, and there's lessons to be learned and things that need to be. Do you think, actually, no, I'm going to stay with the same question, because I want John to answer it, and he's ready. And then I'm going to get to Ken a little bit. John, what do you think is kind of most important now?
So when hindsight is always a great perspective. So when I started facilitating groups in 2000, 2001, the 9/11 happened right away. So there's the first big, the world is coming to an end, life will never be the same again. And it had a huge impact. But we got through it. As Tony said, you make adjustments if you're on top of your numbers, if you're on top of your business model, you're on top of understanding the business at a deeper level, not just fixing cars, then you make adjustments as required. Go forward another 8 or 9 or 10 years, and you get the market crash, the housing crash, the mortgage, and oh my God, the world's coming to an end. It'll never be the same again. What are we going to do? Well, you make your adjustments and you do that. So we got through that. Now the COVID thing, March of 2020, The world's coming to an end. Life will never be the same again. And honestly, the COVID thing has been one of the best boosts to our industry, our businesses that I've ever seen. With the government subsidies, the EIDL money, the PPP money. Shops are sitting on more cash now than they probably ever had in the past, and that's allowing them to make better decisions about growth and expansion. So sometimes when you look back on these things, and again, you look now, and then you could look again in the future, things will come up. But if you understand your business, you understand how things work together within your business, you just make adjustments and you roll with it. So I think the same thing is going to happen with the technician shortage. COVID and the car manufacturing and the chip shortage, that's a fairly temporary situation. 6 months from now, it could be different. Price of used cars has gone up. People are hanging on to their used cars because of that, which is, again, a benefit for us. These last few months, I've seen more record sales months of all time than I've seen at any time in the last 20 years. So this is a great time to be in the automotive business. And I don't think, other than dealing with the immediate challenges that you have to deal with, that the future will roll out as it always does, and we'll get through it. So Kent, you were going to say something, I think.
Yeah, you're up, buddy.
I was going to say, you likely have 3 or 4 types of people. You've got, on one end, you got the doomsdayers, right? The world's going to end. They're the ones who initially, when this all happened, they pulled out of our programs, they stopped training, they stopped their marketing, and guess what? Those shops aren't around anymore at this point, or they're still barely holding on. Next, you have the guys who they're more apathetic. They're the if I don't know, I don't know, right? They're blissfully ignorant. They're just going to keep doing it the way they've been doing it. And then you've got the people who are more vigilant and forward thinking. I always like to think about, and Dad, you would say that I overthink things, but I'd rather be prepared for the worst and hope for the best, right? If I'm a shop owner right now, it seems volatile, but there's so much opportunity for shops right now. I mean, again, John, you were saying we've seen record months on a scale that I've never seen. And Dad, I don't know, you've got a much more extensive career than I've had, right? And it's still crazy, the opportunity that's available. A lot of the shops who weren't doing things right are either gone, or they're again barely holding on. And the opportunity for us as good shops to come in and service people is huge. Another thing is, if I'm going to prepare for whatever's going to come, I need a support system in place. And if I don't have that support system, then I can't be forward thinking, right? I'm just going to keep my head down in the trenches and keep working on what I'm working on. And what I mean by support system is Tony, you referenced it. I got to have money in the bank. I've got to have the training available to me. I've got to be making sure I'm providing benefits and have systems and processes to run a good business, so that when technicians do come in, they can be successful, and I can provide an environment that facilitates success for my employees, so I can attract those good technicians, and then it comes to, in order to provide those, we have to really understand the value that we provide our customers. There's a scarcity right now, again, with the chip shortage, with the fact that people aren't buying new vehicles. They're not even new vehicles to buy. They've got to get their vehicles fixed. And now there's so many less shops that can actually fix their vehicles. And we weren't charging what we were worth before any of this. So now, in order to keep the good technicians, in order to service properly, to be able to pay for the parts to get things in, I need to charge what I'm worth and really understand the value of what I'm providing.
I had a conversation, great comments, Ken, by the way. I had a conversation yesterday with one of the more forward-thinking shop owners, and they're offering techs $60 an hour. They've got tools already. You're not going to be buying your own tools, air conditioned, heated business, beautiful tile floors, just a really great environment to be successful in. And then I was actually talking to someone else, and I won't, again, no names, and they're actually a pretty forward-thinking person, but they're talking about we're going to hire another tech, and we're going to make an offer of $22 an hour. And I say we're going to be in a position soon, if we're not already, where we literally have to pay these guys, $150,000 a year, the good ones, to be techs in our business. And how are we going to do that if, number one, we don't understand our business financially? Where does our profit come from, and how do we maximize that? And or we're not creating the environment where our people can be successful and help us be successful. How are we going to do that? So, John, what do I need? Because there's a tech shortage, and when a good tech becomes available, I'm not the only one looking for them. So, what am I going to need to really be able to hire that guy? And then how do I make that happen in my business?
Well, we've been discussing that aggressively for the last few years, even before this happened. And I've been an advocate and a promoter of an ongoing recruiting program. Tony, you've heard me talk about ongoing recruiting forever. So not waiting until you need somebody to start looking, but planting seeds, building relationships with technicians in the market. The good ones are always working. The good ones are never out of work. But they will move for a better opportunity. So you need to, one of your discussion points is kind of brand awareness and image. You need to create the brand, the image in the market of being a great place to work. Typically we talk about marketing for customers. Well, you need to be marketing for future employees. I was talking to Joe Hansen this morning, and he said he's got a great he doesn't call his entry-level technicians general service techs. He calls them technician apprentices. And again, just a little bit of a shift in how we view that position. And all too often, I think we've ruined a lot of potentially good technicians by labeling them a general service tech and giving them all the lower level jobs in the shop and just keeping them there and not giving them a path for growth, an opportunity for advancement. And that's contributed to the problems we're having now. But to your point, Cecil, about the technician pay, this last round of meetings, we had one of our discussions was on employee retention. And I told everybody to go back and be intentional about making sure that your technicians are the best paid in your market. Now, you might not be able to do that today, but that should be your goal, and certainly for your key people. And a lot of technicians got a lot of raises thanks to me. I haven't had any thank you calls yet. But also, along with that discussion was you need to increase your labor rates. And, we've talked about labor rates in the past, but just in relation to, a little tweak here and a little tweak there. I think most shops have increased their labor rates at least 10 to maybe 20% this year alone. And I see that continuing to go. And I think you need to get ahead of the curve in relation to your technician pay with your labor rate increases, to be able to make better decisions about hiring. Because yes, I don't know that I've had any $60 an hour technicians, but certainly a lot of $120,000, $130,000 a year technicians. And however you get to that point, but the cost of labor is going up. Now, not all markets are the same. In some markets, labor rates and technician pay are relative to the market and cost of living in that market. But yeah, when I hear somebody talking about I'm hiring a new guy or I'm going to offer him $22 an hour, I get the same feeling that you did.
you kind of wonder
enough.
if it's somebody that's even qualified, or maybe that is a starting position wage, but even that I don't think is enough for someone. I can't raise a family on that. I would have a hard enough time living on my own on that. Sorry, John.
Yeah, no, and that's so you drive around any urban area and you see signs, help wanted, $15 an hour, 20. And these are entry level food service industry jobs. So how is it that we're supposed to attract some skilled talent into our industry by offering, $15, $20 an hour? Anybody can go get that anywhere.
Entry level food jobs. And the other thing I think, so there's 2 points I kind of want to make here. One, the inflation has hit at least the United States. And I think Canada, I could say you guys are right behind us if you're not with us.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm worried about what I charge and how I make a profit, because the profit I made yesterday is worth less money today. But I'm also worried about my employees, because if I'm paying them X and X was all right, 6 months ago, X is not okay today, because X is X minus, right now minus about 12% in the United States. And that's a huge difference when gas has gone up 40% and, housing's gone up 40%. And the cost of, I think they said chicken
groceries
this morning
food
was like, chicken was like 60% or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been talking about this with my groups for at least this whole year. And that is, we have to increase our labor rates so that we can pay our people more, not necessarily so that I can make more money in my shop, but so that I can make sure that my people are the best paid people. And it is relative. Maybe maybe I'm in Mississippi or, some of the southern states where the labor rates are a little bit lower, or maybe I'm in California where the labor rates are very, very high. But whatever my high was yesterday, it's got to be higher tomorrow because of this. And I need to take some chunk of that and go to my employees and go, here, I don't want them looking around. In my conversation yesterday with this particular shop owner, they had hired a technician who was a dealer tech, one of the top dealer techs. He went back to the dealership and the dealer locked him in a room and said, "You're not leaving here." And basically said, "We're going to put you on a base pay of $110,000 base. We're going to not, you can pick, you can work from 8 to 5 or 7 to 3. Take your pick. And we're going to cut out all weekends. You're not going to work on the weekends anymore." The dealers are starving to death for techs, maybe even more so than the independents. And they're becoming serious competition for us, for those good guys. We really, and I know it's not all about pay. So when you talk about brand and, making the idea that we're a great place to work and it's a great environment, a great family, and the owner cares about us, and there's a future here, I'm not just going to come in here and they're not going to make me a GS tech and I'm going to do oil changes for the rest of my life. All of those things become important. I'll get to the other idea in a second. Tony, your take on all of that.
Well, I think this whole conversation about inflation is probably one of the key factors that we have to look at as business owners. I had one of my group members was actually still operating at as recently as this May, still operating at a labor rate under $100 an hour. And we had a long and fruitful conversation as a group about the concept of inflation. My son and I were driving somewhere the other morning. We stopped at a gas station and got a burrito first thing in the morning. And the 99-cent gas station burrito, I walked out of there for $9.50 for 2 burritos, right? That's inflation. That's significant inflation. And that's something that you have to come to grips with. That impacts everything. When you have to pay $9.50 for a couple of burritos, 2 burritos, no coffee, no milk, nothing, just 2 burritos. And that means that everything on the backside of building that burrito costs them more. everything going outside that store has to cost more as well. So as a shop owner, you can't just expect that you can pay your technicians, $15 to $25 an hour and charge $100 to $115 an hour and be fine, because the market has already left. We have got to respond to what's really happening in the market. And if we don't respond, we will end up faced with unexpected costs, unexpected losses, and we will have nothing to maneuver with. We'll be stuck.
And it's interesting because I was listening to the news the other day on the way into work, and they were talking about the fact that gas has gone up 40%. That's one of the big reasons that food has gone up. Because, of course, to get your food from there to here, the price has increased to them, so they have to pass that on. Well, if I'm paying $9 for those 2 burritos, and I used to pay $3, I've got to pass that on. And I think that's a concept that the public doesn't necessarily really understand. And I don't know that enough shop owners truly understand that. Mm-hmm. My father, when in the 90s, when I actually left his shop, I worked for him for a long time. Our marketplace had changed for various reasons, and we needed to advertise. We had never advertised. We'd never needed customers. Being a great shop, local, was always enough. And all of a sudden it wasn't, because the community had changed, big shifts in the community. And Dad's answer to that was, we'll terminate a bunch of our employees, and then you and I will do all that work, and we won't have to pay them. And that way we won't have to raise our rates or, market or anything like that. And of course I saw that as a dead end. There was not a future for me in that example. And I moved on. Kent, how do you feel about, rates and raising rates and inflation? I mean, you're an employee, you got 3 kids now, you just had another one,
I think I need a raise.
Yeah.
No, I was kind of talking to a shop the other day. Again, we're having these conversations all the time, and it was more, well, I don't think people will pay that. Right. I don't think people will go for that. I can't raise my rate any higher because no one will pay that amount. And I had to kind of work him back and say, well, what does it cost you? Right? Because if it costs you, it's costing you more for parts. It's costing you more for labor to pay your technicians to even keep anybody to work for you. How are you going to afford that? Right? And you work backwards from there. Here's my cost. Here's what I need to make. That's the number. That's what we need to make. How do we then translate that value to our potential customers? Right. And so it's just a shift of how you're looking at it. It's not, well, these people won't pay for it. It's, how do I show them that it's worth it? And I feel like there's a lot of us that your message
messed you up.
Hit me off. But I think a lot more shop owners need to hear that.
It's funny to me, having worked with shop owners for the John, you and I, we're about in the same place as far as time. Tony, you're a bit of a youngster for the two of us, but you're getting close. I have told, I don't know, maybe 50,000 to 100,000 shop owners to raise their rates. Now, not everybody did, and not everybody has, but the ones that did, by and large, when you go back to them 2 months later and you say, okay, how many people really complain that wouldn't have complained otherwise? And how many people quit you? How many people said, you know what, your price is just too high for me, and they left? And the answer is almost always resoundingly 0. If I lost a customer, it was in my bottom 5%. It was those what we call
I don't make any money off of.
Yeah, it wasn't the good customers that I would lose. It was the ones that I typically, frankly, would want to kind of drive away anyway, because they don't allow me to be profitable. And it's interesting that our industry, we're so hooked on, like I can't raise my rates because the people are so aware of what I'm charging. It kind of blows me away.
What is so wrong with making a profit?
Well,
why do people feel, and this is, sorry, I'm getting emotional here. Why do
I
people
can just barely see your soapbox?
Why don't you tell us what you really think? Yeah.
why do shop owners feel so guilty about making a profit?
I don't
They
think
don't want to charge anything.
I don't think many of them believe that they deserve it because they're just technicians. They're just mechanics. They just don't understand that I didn't get my education going to a 4-year college, and I don't have a master's degree, but I have a master's degree in how to fix a car and how to run a shop and how to do that. And I learned the hard way. I've got scars on my hands and bad knees and, et cetera, because I learned that way and I paid for that and I deserve it. But I think a lot of shop owners don't feel they deserve it or that they can actually have it.
Maybe it's they might also not understand everything that goes into the service that they provide. Like you have to pay for the pens and the paper, and you have to pay for all the software that helps you run your shop. You have to pay for, the building itself. You have to pay for the electricity that goes into the building. You have to pay for all of that. And if you're marketing, and you should be marketing, you also have to pay for the marketing. And I think coming from a perspective of most of these owners were technicians, all they had to focus on was fixing cars. They didn't realize or ever got exposure to the understanding that there's so much more that goes into it. And it's not the shop that has to pay for all of that. It should be the customers, because that's what the customers are paying for.
Customer pays for everything.
They have to pay for everything.
Like it or not, or you go broke. So hang on, we need a commercial. It's a little past that time. That's the message I was sending. So Kent, lead us into a commercial.
If you're worried about surviving the future and you want to be prepared, not only with money in the bank so that when hard times come, you're prepared for it, but having an entire support system at your back. And that's kind of what, a lot of the successful shops a lot of shops we work with have a support system in place where they're working with a coach. They're in a performance group where they're reviewing financials, and not just financials, but marketing strategies. They're getting education from experts in their fields. I mean, we just had the Mars conference not too long ago where we brought in 7 experts in their respective marketing fields to talk about things like geofencing, Google's AI, all the different trends that are happening with marketing now. And not just that, if you guys want any of that, that's literally what we do. And you can find out more information at wearetheinstitute.com or rlotraining.com. Or you can hit up any one of us and we can do a discovery session with you to figure out where you're at and where we can take you.
And how we can help you. Thank you, Kent, for that. And we will be posting the links and stuff down in the bottom as this plays. All right. So interestingly enough, Kent mentioned the marketing conference that we did. A lot of the people that were there and a lot of the conversations I've been having in my groups lately are, how do I market for technicians? And I'm saying what you do for customers today, if you're on the ball, if you understand AI, SEO, programmatic stuff, geofencing, tagging, you do the same thing. Some of the new stuff that's out there just blew me away because I can geofence to within 16 feet. So if I want to go after the local dealerships, technicians and drop messages, I don't have to do it while they're at work. Even I can geofence,
pings them and follows them around with advertising
their service department, and then I can follow them and send a message to their streaming device, whatever they're on, whether they're on their Facebook or they're on their watching Netflix. I can send a message through that and get to them, not even while they're at work. So Ben, there's just a lot of cool stuff.
A benefit of that is you can pull your existing good technicians. Where do you guys eat? Where do you guys shop? What do you guys like to do on the weekends? What are your hobbies, right? People that fit my culture already. And then you can go and target dealerships with that knowledge and maybe even target the venues that your techs often go to as well. Things like maybe it's outdoor adventure stuff, and you can identify, I want techs that are between this age and this age.
It's amazing, right? how intricate
so that I can build text that will be with me for a long period of time.
All right, I want to shift. Right. So I just wanted that to be just like a little, okay, guys, the fact is, if I'm not involved in ongoing education in some way, Either I'm a group member, or I'm going to regular classes, or I'm watching, CARM routinely, or all of it. I'm not having the conversations about the AI and what's happening, and I'm left behind. John, in the groups, what kind of things? Why do you think the groups are? I don't want this to be a group commercial, but why do you think the groups are valuable to the members in the group?
So you were talking about the fear of raising prices, fear of what the customers are going to do, fear about making a bad decision, fear. I think in the group, it gives you courage to make a better decision than you would if you were on your own, because you're surrounded by a bunch of people that are potentially doing what you've already done. And, in the group, there's always the leaders, the trendsetters, the ones that'll try the new marketing ideas first, the ones that'll raise their prices without giving it a second thought. And then you've got the middle range people that'll wait and see what they do. And then you've got the laggards that still need more convincing. But within that dynamic, you always have somebody to look forward, to look at and say, well, he's doing it, and he's really not any different than I am or my situation. So, it gives you courage to try it. So I think that's one of the bigger things. In fact, the bottom line impact groups, Tony, you remember what the motto is? I'll put you on the spot.
Oh, goodness sakes. Now you're putting me on the spot.
I'll help you out. One of the words is courage, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, goodness sakes. Boy.
The other one is adaptability.
Yep. Adaptability,
and
courage,
the third one is teamwork, right? So courage, adaptability, teamwork. And it's been the tagline, the motto of the bottom line impact groups since I took over from Bob O'Connor back in 2000. And that's exactly what you get. You can get knowledge anywhere. You can listen to CARM. You can go on any podcast. You can be in a management forum. But unless you know, and here's the key, somebody and you trust somebody, because that's the element that, you can sit in on a forum but you don't know that this guy's giving you the straight goods, or he may be self-serving or maybe a blowhard and tell you what he's doing, but he's really not. But when you're in a room full of other shop owners that you trust and exactly their victories and their challenges and their numbers, and you can see exactly what's going on, that gives you the courage to be able to take the next step, to adapt to a situation, and move yourself forward.
It kind of eliminates
the
risk.
Biggest thing,
right? It eliminates risk for you.
I think it mitigates it in a sense that I know they did it. They've been successful. I think I can do it also.
Helps you make better decisions, but more importantly, not make bad decisions, because there's a lot of things you could do that would be incorrect for a specific situation. And that's where I think, having other shop owners and a coach facilitator to kind of make sure that, all of the pieces are considered, not just, one thing, but look at the bigger picture and then make a better decision. And again, don't make a bad decision. So that happens a lot in the groups.
We were in a group meeting yesterday, going over financials, which with the smart groups that we do that online every month. And we had really a great turnout. Almost 90% or so of the group members were in the meeting. And one of the guys had a lower labor rate. And when we were looking at their effective rate, the other members spoke up. I didn't have to say anything. They were like, hey, I know where your shop's at, and you're woefully short, right? They were at $115 an hour. We have another shop in and around the area that's at $160. And this guy does 935 hours a month in production, between 900 and 1,000 every month. And then we looked at the labor profit, and his labor profit was below what we would want. And so between, 3 or 4 things and 4 or 5 other people going, hey, you need to make a change. He was like, I'm changing it right now. He went up $15 an hour. And if you think about 935 hours times $15 an hour, that's an amazing, substantial change for his business. And I guarantee you that not one of his customers is going to complain with that, especially not today. Tony, did you put the burritos back when you found they were $9 and walk away?
No, we just had an expensive breakfast.
Yeah. So, and I think that's the thing. All right. So I got a couple of more things that I want to make sure that we get covered, because to me, the numbers of the business and really understanding the numbers, I think we were talking about, we really have to kind of understand our business and be prepared. So I want to have money in the bank. In order to have money in the bank, I've got to be charging what I need to. I've got to be, getting the right margins and the right dollars into my company. Tony, how important has that been for you as a business owner, learning the numbers? How much do you think you've paid for it, and how much do you think it's returned you?
Oh my goodness! So if you do a cost benefit analysis, I have benefited way more than it's ever cost me, because I've learned. And I think the key, Cecil, that you're looking for, the real value is the idea of benchmarking and comparing with quality businesses. The understanding that I need to make a certain percentage, a certain amount of profit, and if I don't, it comes out of my own pocket. If I fail to have a labor margin or parts margin at a certain benchmark, the ideal, then the money that I didn't make comes out of the bottom line. And my goodness, if you don't understand what you're really doing, if you just think that charging $100 an hour and marking up your parts 50% is all you have to do, and look at all this money I'm making, and you don't realize that your cost of electricity went up 30% last year, if you don't realize that the cost of gasoline is affecting the cost of your parts, and you're not changing and adjusting everything accordingly, you end up really closing out the year with very little profit, 1-2% profit. Property taxes went up. Oh, I didn't adjust
Mine doubled
this
year.
They doubled for me. Yeah.
I didn't have that problem here, but they certainly went up. But the key thing is understanding how the benchmarks, or how the specific profit goals affect your bottom line. And the BLIG, the bottom line impact group that we've been associated with for years. John, it's on your shirt, right? At the bottom line impact group. That is the critical element. We have to learn how to manage our businesses to the desired outcome, not to the emotional satisfaction.
Well, and unfortunately, emotional satisfaction often leads to not enough money in the bank and stress.
Exactly.
Because,
which isn't the desired outcome.
No, I feel good when I give this guy a discount. I feel good when I help him set the price instead of set the price myself, and then have to convince him that that's the right price and that it's a good idea to pay it. I feel good, making that guy feel good, or that person feel good. But at the end of the week, I'm struggling because, I made some money 2 months ago, but this month I didn't make any money, and now I don't have money in the bank to pay the bills. It's amazing to me how much stress is created.
I think
Go ahead.
The key thing I think I learned years ago, decades ago, as a shop owner, I was operating a small, little teeny 2-bay shop behind my house. This is the humble beginnings, right? And I had set a labor rate based on what I had seen a previous boss set it at. And I raised my labor rate, I think $3. $3 an hour. I raised it because I saw the profit margins weren't where they were supposed to be, and I was trying to adhere to. And we're talking, this was way less than $100 back then, and so I raised my labor rate. One of my customers questioned me, "Oh my gosh, how can you charge so much money?" And I looked him in the eye and I said, "Do you want me to be in business next year?" He was very fond of our service. He loved our business. He said, "Well, of course I want you to be in business next year." And then I said, "If I don't raise my rates, I won't be in business next year and I can't serve you." And he was dumbfounded by the logic behind it, but he couldn't argue it, because that's the reality. If I don't maintain the profits, if I don't maintain a necessary, healthy financial stability, I will not be able to serve those people that I love so much. And so it's my responsibility as a business owner to make sure that it's a successful business.
John.
Yes.
Is the business today different than the business 10 years ago? When I started, I wrote service, worked on the cars, paid the bills, verified that the bill from Napa and Worldpac and made sure that it was right so I could write the checks. All of that stuff. Is our business today a different? In other words, if the business is different, do I have to play a different role as an owner in my company?
Well, you know as well as I do, when most shop owners come into the training or the groups or the coaching or whatever, that's their biggest problem is they don't understand that as an owner, your job is to put people into those positions so you don't have to be in those positions. And that's a really hard thing for owners to get their head around, because they started like Tony. They were the mechanic, they were the service advisor, they were the cleanup person. They did everything. And if you read the E-Myth, Michael Gerber's The E-Myth, that's exactly how probably 90% of the people in our industry got started. And if you continue to try to do that, you're going to not be able to grow. You're not going to be able to sell your services for what they're worth. Because Tony, did you ever pay for retail auto repair in your life? Did you know what it costs other people?
I've been out of town and had to pay the price, and I was aware of it somewhat.
Right. So I don't think that it's changed in the last 10 years or even the last 20 years. But what we do is we get the owners to change their perspective, their perception of what it takes to be successful. And, you're going to get owners that it's the 6 inches between your ears. Well, for some of you, it's more or less than 6 inches.
Yeah, I got a fat head.
That's the limiting factor. When you fix that, everything else falls into place. Our job, my job, the company's job is to help change that perception. And again, the group process and the training certainly helps do that. Tony, the burrito you paid $9 for, that's a great story. I'll bet you when you were struggling back then, if you would have put those burritos back, because you didn't have the financial resources that you do now back then.
Sure.
And I talked to one of my clients yesterday, and he's very price sensitive, probably one of the most price sensitive owners I've dealt with. Been working with him for a couple of years, or 3 years now, I guess. And he's every time he raises his prices, parts margins or labor, he gets busier, and he keeps getting busier. And I said, what's with the fear of raising your prices, Nick? Well, I just don't want to, I don't want to raise the prices busy and scare all my customers away.
I don't want to get too busy, is what you're saying.
Yeah, well. And I said, okay, so Nick, as he's become more successful, he was not financially healthy when I started working with him. Now he's putting lots of money to the bottom line. And I said, so has your perception changed about things you buy now that you've got more money? And he goes, absolutely. He says, I'm more concerned now about, hiring quality. People. He's expanding his shop. So he wants to hire people that show up and do a good job and they get it done right. And pricing is not the primary concern. I said, that's exactly how you need to look at your business. And one of the more important things is understanding who your target customer is, and that you're not trying to please the guy that's going to question every penny on the invoice. You're looking for clients that have the resources and value the level of service you provide. So the value added, the value of your service advisors, the value of your shop and its ability to fix their nice newer cars. And those other customers will go to another part of the market. So marketing is about identifying your target customer and providing the service and with the pricing that they will pay and appreciate.
We literally last night, I was talking with some friends, and my wife was there, and we were talking about, what I do, because been a minute. And we talked about pricing and how it's been hard to shift owners in this way. My wife has been making bralettes and selling them online and doing all that. And she had a horrible experience with this person who only paid $20 for her thing. And she goes, and I kept telling her, well, based on your cost, based on this, you need to be charging $35 to $40 for this service. She goes, nobody will pay that, right? She had just sent a message to a friend of ours who was having a group of friends over and sharing pictures of her product. And the first thing that came back from that friend was like, so these are what, $35, $40, right? And she had just said, nobody will pay that amount, Kent. And it was literally that, like a split, like instant example of, look, just because this person won't pay that doesn't mean someone else, they will. Someone else will.
So we're starting a new program that you will actually see on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. That's called Quick Start Program. And we have a jump start. Okay. Thank you, Kent. I'm getting old. I can't remember this stuff. And the new guy that we just recently started with about a month and a half ago, really in some financial issues, really stressed out, etc. And we went to the shop, looked at it, and we gave him some things to do. And by the time we'd returned back, there had been a customer that sent him a request for an itemized parts list and all the receipts from all the vendors. And the guy sent me a message and said, what do I do? And I said, well, what do you anywhere in your marketing, do you promise that you'll show them what you paid for the parts, or, where you got the parts, or any of that? And he goes, no. I said, tell the guy to go jump in a lake. I mean, we're not providing that. That's not what we do. And oh, by the way, we are marking them up. You rely on us. We've got a good warranty. We've given you a great warranty, 3 years, 36,000 mile. We source great parts. We mark them up. You pay the bill. That's how that works. Now, the whole point of this is, that's a customer that you don't want. That's a customer you want going to the shop down the street, who's going to eat up hours of their time and post nasty things online about them because they won't show them the invoices from the places where they bought the parts. You don't want every single client. I don't care if it's today or tomorrow. You really need to decide who you want to serve and how you want to serve them. And then you need to be the best that you can be, in my opinion. And I wanted to make a comment, John, as you were talking. Nick, is Nick a more relaxed person today than he was 3 years ago? Does he have more free time? Is he spending more time with his wife and kids, his family, enjoying his life than he was 3 years ago, right? I cannot tell you how often that story plays out. And, some guys, they just love the business. So we have some owners who, when they have free time, then they go buy a second business and they work on that because that's what they love to do. But we also have owners that take their wife and, 5 times a year and go out of the country for a week and a half, and their business runs, puts money in their bank. And there's so many shop owners out there that struggle almost day to day. And to me, I'm kind of like what Ken said. I don't realize how hard it is, because it's not hard. Right. I take it for granted that it's really easy to run a shop, because for me, it's really easy to run a shop. And for most of our group members, I'd say the majority, it's easy for them to run their shops and be profitable. The more the easier it becomes, I think. All right. We're at the end. We still got a couple of minutes because we started a couple of minutes late. Best piece of advice that you could give somebody today to help them be prepared for not only today, but tomorrow, and be successful. I'm going to go to Tony, then I'm going to go to Kent, and then I'm going to go to John. Tony?
So my canned response: be financially stable and prepared to adapt and make a profit.
And I think in order to do that, you have to understand those metrics. Imagine shop owners, any shop owner today who's a technician, getting a check engine light on and not having a scanner to scan that car. And then how do I fix it? What do I do?
That's absolutely, but by all means, the best way that I've seen, and this is in 30 plus over 30 years of working in the industry, serving people in the automotive repair industry. The best method that I've learned to grow as a business owner, to grow in that knowledge, is to be part of the group process, like what we offer at RLO.
I think it's the least expensive and the most valuable. Because the cost benefit ratio is so dramatic.
Absolutely.
All right, Kent, what is your advice to these people that might be watching this?
Be prepared. And that means that you charge what you need to charge so that you have the resources available to provide the value and services that you'd like to provide, take care of your employees, pay for your facility, pay for whatever you would need to provide that service or continue providing that service, and be able to weather any issues that come up, like a pandemic or a distribution error or inflation, all of those things. Be prepared.
I've had 2 shop owners recently that came to me and asked if they should lower their prices. One just out of the blue felt like it would make them busier. Now, by the way, they're booked 3 weeks out and they couldn't take any more work if they wanted to. The second one, he looked at a brake job that was now, I don't know, $495 for front brakes. And he thought, wow, that's expensive. So he called, Billy Bob's Auto Repair down the street. And the guy said, it's $350 at our shop. And so he came to me. Now, by the way, that shop is literally in my top 5 shops the way it looks. I recently wrote a blog. It'll come out soon about that. They have only the best technicians. They pay the top rate for their techs. They only buy quality parts, blah, blah, blah. And I asked him, what kind of parts are they using over at Billy Bob's? He goes, oh, whatever they can get cheap, And so I told him, shut up. No, you're not going to lower your price. If you feel like you're getting too many price questions, I say, look at your service. Don't look at your price. Look at your service, what you're giving your customers, the perception of value that you're putting out there. John, I'm going to give you the last comment.
Last word. So obviously going third, I have a few less choices, but my advice would be to, as a shop owner, to develop yourself as a leader, develop your leadership skills. Communication is a big part of that. And you'd asked Cecil, is it different running a business now than it was 10 years ago? I think you have to be a better owner, a better leader for your team. And develop leaders around you. The more successful shop owners, the ones that are growing now, develop leaders around them, a leadership team that they can delegate to and rely on. And you don't have to make all of the decisions. And that's how you gain some freedom. And then look after your people. Just you need to up your game when it comes to employee retention. And some of that is pay, but a lot of it is more of it is culture and having your employees feel like they're part of something bigger than just a job. And I think if you develop yourself as a leader, develop leaders around you, and look after your people, this is going to be a great ride for the next, for the foreseeable future anyway.
There's so many things that have come to a head right now that are really pluses in our plus. There's very few minuses in the column. Lots of pluses for the industry. This is a time of huge opportunity for the people that have developed the teams and who are leaders. I agree with you 100%.
So if you are tired of having to manage an entire business by yourself, if you're tired of having to make all the decisions and carry all the risk that come with that and doing it all by yourself, why not check out one of our group programs or what we offer at the Institute and RLO? We literally have any training, resources, support, coaching, consulting group. We offer it all. That the whole point of our company is to provide you the resources so that you can be successful with your shop. And if you are at that point where you're saying, hey, I'm not making enough, I'm too stressed out, and I'm not sure if this is a good future for me, I think you should definitely have a conversation with us, because the automotive industry right now is probably I've been thinking about buying a shop. That's how good it is right now. So if you'd like to visit us at wearetheinstitute.com or rlotraining.com and reach out to myself, to Cecil, to Tony, or John, we'd love to have a conversation with you. And with that, we will see you guys next time in our next episode.
Thank you all.
Thank you.